It was a cold Friday evening in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the kind where the wind carried the smell of fried chicken and the chatter of people finding comfort in familiar food. The KFC on Jefferson Highway was buzzing with life, families laughing, teenagers sharing fries, and workers in red aprons rushing around with trays. But in the corner of the restaurant, one family sat quietly at a small table, 3 kids and their tired-looking mother. Their smiles were faint, their laughter forced, as if they were trying to hide something heavier than hunger. Outside, a man in a gray overcoat stepped out of his car. It was Senator John Kennedy, just coming back from a long day of community meetings. He was the kind of man who often stopped by local diners rather than fancy restaurants, believing that if you want to know how people really live, you eat where they eat. He was there alone, planning to grab a quick meal before heading home. But that night, something would happen that would stay with him forever. As John entered the restaurant, a little boy of maybe 8 years old spotted him. The child's eyes widened as if he had just seen a superhero. He whispered something to his mom, who quickly shushed him. John gave them a polite nod and ordered a simple meal, 2 pieces of chicken, mashed potatoes, and sweet tea. When his tray was ready, he looked around for a seat, but most tables were full. That's when the little boy suddenly waved at him. "Sir, you can sit with us if you want," the boy said, his voice cheerful but innocent. The mother turned red with embarrassment. "Ethan, honey, don't bother the man," she said softly. John smiled warmly. "He's not bothering me at all," he said, walking over. "That's a mighty kind invitation, young man. I'd be honored to join you." The family's table wasn't much, just a small tray of shared chicken, biscuits, and 1 large soda with 3 straws. The kids, Ethan, Grace, and little Emma, were dressed in hand-me-down coats. Their mother, Melissa, looked like she had been holding her world together with sheer willpower, but she still managed a smile. As John sat down, they chatted about school, sports, and favorite KFC sauces. The kids giggled when he joked that secret herbs and spices should count as Louisiana treasure. Slowly, the ice melted, and Melissa began to relax. Yet, John couldn't help noticing how carefully she rationed the food for her kids and how she pretended she wasn't hungry. He gently asked, "Ma'am, forgive me if I'm being nosy, but you didn't get anything for yourself?" Melissa hesitated, then forced a smile. "Oh, I already ate earlier," she said, sipping water. But John knew that look. He'd seen it before, parents pretending they'd eaten so their children could have more. He leaned back in his chair, thinking. Then, without a word, he stood up and walked to the counter. Minutes later, he returned with a tray so full it barely fit on the table, buckets of chicken, biscuits, coleslaw, mashed potatoes, and ice cream for dessert. Ethan's eyes went wide. "Whoa, did you win the lottery, mister?" John chuckled. "Not quite, but I do know that fried chicken tastes better when everyone gets their fill." Melissa's eyes glistened. "Sir, that's too much." "You really didn't have to," he interrupted softly. "I did, because kindness doesn't come with a receipt." Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, "You don't understand a broken bar. We just lost my husband 2 months ago. Things have been a broken bar hard. I was just trying to make tonight special for the kids." For a moment, the restaurant seemed to fall silent. Even the noise of the fryer in the back faded away. John's face softened, his usual political composure replaced by pure empathy. He said quietly, "You don't owe anyone an explanation, ma'am. You're doing your best, and that's something to be proud of." As the family began eating together, laughter returned to the table. John listened to Ethan talk about wanting to be a firefighter like his dad, and Grace proudly showed him a drawing she made of their family. He encouraged them, telling stories of his own childhood in Louisiana, how his parents worked hard to make ends meet, and how sometimes all a person needs is a little hope and a warm meal to keep going. After dinner, Job helped clean up the table and walked the family to their car. Before they left, Melissa reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. "Please, take this," she said. "It's a thank you card my husband wrote to his fire station before he passed. I kept it with me because it reminded me that good people still exist. And tonight a broken bar, you proved he was right." Job held the envelope carefully, humbled. "Ma'am," he said, "I don't deserve this, but I promise I'll keep it safe." As the family drove off, he stood under the dim glow of the parking lot lights, watching the taillights disappear into the night. The letter in his hand felt heavier than paper. It carried a legacy of love, struggle, and faith in humanity. When he got home that night, John placed the letter on his desk. The next day, during a speech at a local community event, he shared the story, not to boast, but to remind everyone listening that compassion is the real currency of this world. He ended his speech saying, "You don't need a title, a fortune, or fame to make a difference. Sometimes, all it takes is accepting an invitation from a child and sharing a meal. Because when we choose kindness, we choose hope, and hope is what keeps America's heart beating." The story spread across the internet after a KFC employee posted a photo of that moment at John Kennedy, surrounded by smiling kids and an overfilled table of food. It went viral within hours. People were moved not because a senator bought dinner, but because he reminded them that in a divided world, humanity still shines brightest in the simplest of gestures. And somewhere in Baton Rouge, a little boy named Ethan proudly told his classmates, "A senator sat with USA and he made my mom smile again." That smile, John later said, was the greatest reward he ever received.